Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe, and this album review is on Bo Hansen's 1970, I think it's 72, right? Album called Magician's Hat, 1973. So growing, I've been out here in Pennsylvania now for about 2 years, and I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I'm when I was 26, I moved out to Washington D.C., and I lived there for about I think it was like 18 years. And then I moved out here again like two years ago. And when I moved out east, I noticed in record stores there's a lot more, especially here on the Upper East Coast, a lot more prog rock in the record stores, and especially in the dusty older record stores that I was frequenting a lot in the early 2000s when I moved here, because the electronic music out on the East Coast was, I mean, there's certainly some good stores in Philadelphia and New York, but Washington D.C. has had, like, I won't name any names, but they didn't have any good record stores, and it was mostly on the trance and by trance and prog rock and really bad tech house, and I won't name any names because I don't want to put them on blast, but a lot of the style of music they were playing in the clubs in 2003, 2004 when I got to DC was not in my wheelhouse, and it was just way over the top. It was like right at the end of trance, and it was like a lot of the vocal trance. It was really bad, and the minimal scene wasn't even here, and that was kind of already kind of going to the wayside in 2004. So, like, when I moved out to DC and I started trying to DJ out there a little bit and find some places to play. I played a few times, but I just got really, I was not a fan of the music they were playing in clubs out there, and so I just didn't go out at all. But that was okay, because I've always found that I've rather stay home and play music and listen to the records that I got at a record store at or online or what have you, and the only good record stores that were in DC, shout out to old Orpheus Records, and which is no longer, and also CD Seller, and there was a couple other older stores, but even Tower Records was still okay. I'd find some CDs or some odd compilations at Tower, but for the most part, like, Orpheus was a great record store because it was curated by this really old guy who looked like Gandalf, and but he was shorter and not as tall as that, because I'm 6'7" and nobody's as tall as me generally when I run into people. So he was short, and he had like these like really long nails, like to the point like he looked like a wizard, and you could just tell he was like a hardcore record dealer, and I always enjoyed going to a store. It was in I think it was in Alexandria, if I'm not mistaken. It was more in the I'm trying to think of this more of a specific area that a lot of people sort of party at, and I can't think of the name. God, it's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, it's sort of in Alexandria area by the metro, and it was called Orpheus Records, and they were there from probably the late, I don't know, maybe like, I can't even guess, because that record store looks so old. Like, it must have been there since the 70s. It had to have been. I mean, the sign looked like it was 50 years old on the outside, but it was a big record store. It was huge as far as like the volume. So much so that when I'd go in there, I'd say, "Hey, what's up, Rick? What's new?" And he'd like, "Just dig around, man. Just dig around." And so there was never like a new section. It was one of those stores where you had to just go in there and dig, and you had to get your hands dirty. But the finds you could get for like 50 cents. I was pulling out doubles of records that sell now for $100, like for 50 cents. But also a big education part for me on that was what in there was finding albums like this. Like, how could you not, like, if you're into psychedelic music like I am, and electronic music and the evolution of electronic music, and sort of liking like anything psychedelic or weird or melodic or old instruments or anything unusual, like, how could you not buy this based on the cover? I mean, it's so like Lord of the Rings, right? And then come to find out, the first album he did was his more popular one was a tribute to the Lord of the Rings books. And so it was just like, well, that makes so much sense because that's why I bought it, because it looks like the old Lord of the Rings books. And in 2002, 2003, when I was going to that store, maybe 2004, 2005, also all through that. But the cover reminded me of the movies and stuff, so I was like, oh, I gotta get this. This looks crazy, right? It looks like there's this guy sitting right here, right? I mean, look how crazy that looks. You know, he's sort of sitting there on his chair, right? And it kind of looked like Rick, the owner of the store. But I mean, just that trippy stuff. Like there's you can't. It's hard to see, but there's all kinds of stuff sort of floating in the air and stuff like that, and they look like dragons and sort of like dancers and stuff. Just all kinds of weird stuff. And then you got him on the back here playing. It looks probably a mellotron on the back here, or an old organ. Him playing in the woods there. So like, how could you not buy this? And then you look at all the music he plays, right? He plays the organs, the guitars, bass, synthesizers, mellotron, Rune Carlson, drums. You know what I mean? Just, oh, that's Rune Carlson. He plays the drums. But yeah, just himself plays all organs, guitars, bass, synthesizers, and mellotron. So he's like, how could you not buy this and give it a chance, right? I probably got it for a few bucks. And so you know, part of doing this channel and stuff like that, I'm always gonna like, you know, every 20 or so records I choose to do for the next couple weeks, I'll always choose like one or two records that I don't know, that I don't have, or something sort of in like prog rock, or something sort of an outlier where I can kind of have fun and kind of review it. And there's something special about the way this album is recorded. Like sonically, it's a really, really good sounding record, especially for 1973. Nice depth. Also, again, a lot of interesting instruments are used here. Even congas and acoustic guitars, and you know, it's just flutes, sax, organs. You know, I mean, synthesizers right on the cusp of the beginning of the dawn of proper synthesizers, right? Of ones that coming out from the most analog to the ones that you can actually use and sort of stay in tune, right? If you guys are big into synthesizers and synthesis, and you'll know that a lot of the synthesizers, I'm not saying anything obvious, saying anything that you don't know, but a lot of those old synthesizers are very hard to keep in tune. And in 1973, those type of synthesizers were really hard to use as sort of the main instrument and take it on tour and stuff like that, because they were cumbersome, and they lose their tone, and there was dependent on the weather and stuff like that, the electronics and stuff like that, the humidity, and that's probably why he's still sort of introducing some synthesizers, but also you know, playing the organ and a mellotron. And again, the synthesizers are probably super expensive then as well in 1973. You just can't imagine the price. They kind of classify this album sort of as psychedelic rock, ambient, and prog rock, and I think if you mix the three together, I think that's pretty accurate. I don't know how much rocking is going on here, but I can see how people say it's prog rock. You know, it's definitely in the prog rock category. Although it is kind of avant-garde and sort of it kind of has a little bit of a folk sound to it as well, and you know, I'd probably say it's closer to rock than really. I mean, closer to folk than rock. I mean, there's some parts where it sort of goes into a rock jam bandish thing, but not for very long. But there's a lot of folk sort of sounds in here as well. Not even just from the instruments, just from how he plays and how the songs are arranged. The unfortunate thing about this album is a lot of the songs aren't fully expanded upon. So there's 11 tracks on here, and quite a few of them are like, you know, I think 6 or 7 are like under 2 minutes. There's one that's like, actually, this is the shorter version, but I actually listened to the extended version on the first track, The City. There's 2 versions out there. The City has an 11.5 minute original version, and then for vinyl, and maybe for the American or the Western Hemisphere. Um, Western Hemisphere, they sort of cut it down and edited it into like a 7 minute track. I'm trying to think which. Uh, yeah, so yeah, and even because I have this is an American version, so yeah, they cut it down to like 6 minutes and 59 seconds. So I wanted to hear the longer rate the original album, and that's really the only difference between the original album and this version. So I was listening to the original album. That's the one I critiqued, and there's like 6 or 7 songs that are sort of like under 2.5 minutes. So there's and in fact probably 4 or 5 that are under 2 minutes. So a lot of the songs sort of fade in, kind of get to a point and then sort of fade out. And the fade outs are kind of long, and the fade ins can be a little long. And so you even have a track like track number 3. I think it's 1 minute and 58 seconds. There's only like a minute and a half of real like music, and then it sort of fades out fairly slowly, and then sometimes it kind of fades out a little quick at the end. But they're almost ideas of songs more so than songs, and that doesn't really give a drawback for me. But I can see how some people would think, oh well, I like that part, and oh, it's just a minute. But I think it adds a lot of charm to the album, and I like short songs, little interludes of ideas and certain sounds, and I respect that, because sometimes I would think as somebody who makes music, not me, but like somebody who make music, they would come up with an idea of like, oh, I really like the sound, and then sort of have writer's block, and like I can't turn it into anything. I can't make this really cool part into anything. Well, who cares? Still put it on the album, and I think that's what's cool back then is you can't. I think there's some electronic albums that do that as well. A lot of ambient albums actually do that, but it's cool kind of hearing that, because it's almost like looking at chapters in a book, and you're sort of reading like the table of contents, and you're getting a little bit of it. You're getting a little bit of dose of that particular part of the story, but you're not really like getting the full amount. But in some ways, you want to revisit a 2 minute song more so than an 11 minute song a lot of times, right? So it's got its pros and its cons. Of course, if it's a good song, you always want it to be longer, but I don't think there's any rules to how an artist should write their album and how they feel, and I really appreciate that, that he did it like this, because let's say he didn't do it like this, and some of the songs, a lot of the songs didn't pan out to anything, and he wouldn't have had an album, because it wouldn't have been long enough to even fill up an album. So a lot of the short little stories, a lot of little short songs make up more than half the album. So it's a fairly short album. It's only 38 minutes long. So you take 5, 6, 7. I think there's 7 songs that are under 2 minutes. That's more than a third of the album. I think there's like 3 tracks that are over 6 minutes, and that's another almost more than a third of the album. So, yeah, it's just not really a bad thing about the album. I think it's kind of interesting. I do kind of like the different ideas, and it kind of makes it like a story. And when I think of the artwork and everything like that, excuse me, I ate too much food today. Oh, my stomach's been killing today. I think I ate some bad salsa with my eggs today, just killing my stomach. I was at a fair, like a food fair, where all these people like made different, home cooked foods, and they were selling them and stuff, and everything from fudge to candy to food trucks and salsa. And I bought this one salsa from these 2 ladies, and I went home and used it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty hot. This has got a good flavor. This is nice. And then I was looking at the ingredients, and I looked at the back, and it was expired by like 2 months. And I was like, well, how could salsa not actually like salsa, but it was more like hot sauce. I like, if it's expired by 2 months, like how bad could it hurt me? And then last night I had some, and I wasn't sure if it was that or if it was the Thai food that I had, because I had some drunken noodle for lunch and it was super spicy. So I wasn't sure if that kind of killed my stomach or. But then again, this morning I had some on my eggs and salsa, and it's kind of got me a little acid reflux right now. So maybe it is that hot sauce is bad. I don't know if hot sauce can really go bad though. I mean, I suppose it can, but I mean not after like 2 months expired, right? But anyways, I should email them and be like, you guys sold me some expired hot sauce. What the heck's up with that? Maybe I can get a free bottle because I like the flavor, but I feel like throwing it away now. Anyways, I always get off on these rants. 11 songs. The first song is one of the strongest. I don't have too much to say about the songs. You really got to hear this album. It's interesting. Bo Hansen's Magician's Hat. Check it out. Look it up. I'll run through the songs really quick. The City, 3.5 stars. Really strong guitar. Two. Again, the City. The title track, not the title track. The first track really takes you on a journey. Especially if you listen to the 11.5 minute version. It's an interesting track. There's a lot of good musicmanship on here. A lot of good ideas. A lot of interesting instruments. If you like prog rock, you'll like this. If you like ambient music, I think you'll like this. Track number 2, Divided Reality. This track has sort of like a Ennio Morricone Western soundtrack vibe to it, if you guys know Morricone's. Is it Morricone? Morricone? Italian? If you know his soundtracks, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, all those, he did tons of great Italian movies and Western movies, spaghetti westerns, classic Italian movies, classic soundtrack writer, composer. This one's 3.5 stars too. The middle of the album, the next 2 tracks here I both gave 2 stars, Elidor and Before the Rain. I think track 5 is called, I don't know, it's Fylke, Filk. Probably destroying that with my horrible pronunciation of Bo Hansen's Swedish, and this is the American name of the album, Magician's Hat. So thankfully the song titles on this one are in American, otherwise I wouldn't be able to even pronounce them, I'm sure. But 3 stars on that one. Track 6, Playing Downhill into the Downs. I like the main melody. 3.5 stars. Finhorn Songs, 2.25 stars. Track number 8 is Awakening, 3 stars. Number 9, Wandering Songs, 3.25. Track 10 is my favorite. It's called The Sun, in parentheses, Parallel or 90 Degrees. The organ is really nice. It's kind of prog rock meets jazz. Really, really cool. Really cool song. I give it 4 stars, and then it ends on Excursions with Complications, 2.5 stars. So overall 32.5 stars divided by 11 songs. I gave it a 2.95. And that correlated really good to the album. I gave it a set. I gave it a couple extra points just because of the whole entire album sounds fantastic fidelity wise. Definitely get a vinyl version if you can. These aren't too expensive, maybe in good condition, maybe 10 or 15 bucks, at the most. Really interesting album, and really an album that would, if you're into prog rock, you don't know this, definitely check it out. It's cool. But I gave the album a 70 out of 100, so I pushed it a couple extra points into the very good category. And I'm probably gonna have to check out his the Lord of the Rings one, and that's his most popular one. This was the follow-up. If for those that know prog rock, this was on Charisma Records, right? Yeah, the famous Charisma label, which had lots of prog rock from Genesis to other bands, right? So they had a lot of strong prog rock bands on Charisma. But yeah, really good album. Curious if any of you guys know this album or know any music by Bo Hansen. Curious if there's anybody out there that could recommend something similar. I'd be curious to check it out. But yeah, thanks for watching. 70 out of 100. Very good album by Bo Hansen called Magician's Hat. All right, thanks a lot.